You won't believe this, hidden among these 10 ordinary dimes, there's one worth a staggering $570,290. That's right, a single dime that could change your life, hiding in plain sight. Could it already be in your pocket? Stick around as we uncover how overlooked US dimes, like the 2016 D, hold secrets, rare errors, and shocking auction stories that even seasoned collectors never saw coming. It's the kind of coin you barely notice, one you might drop in a tip jar or leave rattling in your car's cup holder. But what if that ordinary little coin, the 1980 US 1 dime, could actually be worth thousands of dollars? Hidden among the millions struck that year are rare minting errors, unusual planchets, and mysterious anomalies that turn pocket change into a collector's dream. Tonight, we reveal the hidden stories behind one of America's most overlooked treasures. The 1980 dime was born in a time of mass production at the U.S. mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Its design, unchanged since 1946, features Franklin D. Roosevelt on the front and the symbolic torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the back. Over 500 million dimes were minted in 1980, and yet, a few slipped through the cracks of perfection. Some coins left the press struck on the wrong metal, transitional planchets, a result of leftover blanks from earlier runs or even from foreign contracts. These errors are rare but spectacular, producing a dime with an unusual tone, weight, or even metallic composition. Collectors have discovered 1980 dimes struck on silver planchets, long after silver had been phased out of circulating coinage, giving them a gleaming finish and a surprising value. At auction, one such silver error brought in more than $3,000. Others have turned up struck on penny planchets, smaller and reddish, or even blanks for foreign denominations, adding another layer of intrigue. Perhaps the most sought-after errors are the doubled dies. On the obverse of some 1980 dimes, close inspection reveals a faint doubling of the date, the word Liberty, or even the fine details of Roosevelt's eye. These doubled dies happen when the die itself receives two slightly misaligned impressions, and when it strikes coins, it leaves behind a subtle but magical ghosting effect. These coins have become favorites among numismatists for their undeniable character and scarcity, and one collector reportedly paid over $4,000 for a pristine double die example. What makes these coins even more special is the way they capture a moment in history, a reminder that even in the age of machines and mass production, little mistakes can create something extraordinary. So the next time you fish through your change, don't just pass over that dime. Take a closer look, examine it in the light, and see if you're holding a rare piece of American history. You might just uncover a hidden fortune, waiting quietly in your pocket all along. We pass them through our hands every day, barely giving them a second glance. Just a dime, right? But what if that ordinary-looking coin, like the 1967 US 1 dime, could actually be worth thousands of dollars? Tonight, we uncover the hidden history and surprising value behind a coin so common it's almost invisible, yet so rare in its errors that collectors are willing to pay fortunes to own one. The year 1967 was one of transition for U.S. coinage. Silver had just been removed from circulating dimes the year before, replaced by a copper-nickel-clad composition. Millions of these new dimes poured out of the Philadelphia Mint that year, each one bearing the familiar profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. But among those millions, a handful were struck with mistakes that turned them into prized collectibles. Because of the rush to mint coins during the coin shortage of the 1960s, quality control sometimes slipped. On a few rare 1967 dimes, the dies used to imprint the coin were improperly aligned or overused, creating what collectors call a double die obverse. If you look closely at these coins under magnification, you'll see doubled letters in Liberty, or a faint doubling around Roosevelt's eye and cheek. For numismatists, this subtle doubling is like finding a secret signature, a rare flaw that makes the coin one in a million. And that's not the only anomaly from that year. There are also known examples of the 1967 dime struck on transitional or foreign planchets. A planchet is the blank piece of metal that becomes a coin, and during the chaos of high production, some leftover silver blanks or even blanks intended for foreign coins made their way into the presses. The result? A 1967 dime that shines with silver, or weighs slightly differently, an extraordinary find that has sold for thousands at auction. Auction records have documented these treasures. A 1967 dime with a sharp double die obverse fetched over $2,000 at a major coin show, while another struck on a transitional silver planchet brought in more than $3,500. And for collectors, these aren't just coins, they're tangible pieces of history, carrying the story of a nation's changing currency and the human errors that make each piece unique. So before you drop your next dime into a vending machine, take a closer look. That 1967 coin in your pocket could hold a story, and a value, far greater than 10 cents. Check your old jars, sift through your collections, and keep your eyes sharp. Because history and hidden fortune might just be waiting in your hands tonight. It's easy to overlook the small change rattling around in your pocket. A dime here, a dime there, what could they possibly be worth? But what if I told you that the seemingly ordinary 2014 US 1 dime coin could be worth thousands of dollars, hiding a rare minting error, an unusual planchet, or even a stunning double die obverse? Tonight, we peel back the curtain on this humble little coin and reveal a story that might just change the way you see your pocket change forever. The Roosevelt Dime has been part of American life since 1946, honoring the beloved president who helped guide the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. By 2014, the Philadelphia Mint had struck more than 1 billion dimes, each one bearing the familiar profile of FDR, the word liberty, and the tiny P mint mark. To most people, these coins are as unremarkable as the air we breathe. But beneath the surface, a handful of these 2014 P dimes carry fascinating secrets. Some of the most coveted examples feature a double die obverse, a striking error where the letters "In God We Trust," and even Roosevelt's face appear slightly doubled. This happens when the die that impresses the coin's design shifts slightly during creation, a flaw invisible to the naked eye at first but remarkable under magnification. For collectors, these double details are like a hidden signature, a mark of uniqueness in a sea of sameness. Other 2014 P dimes have been found struck on transitional or wrong planchets, metal blanks that were never meant for this coin. Imagine holding a dime with a copper tone instead of its usual nickel-silver color, or weighing less than expected. Such errors occur when leftover planchets from another denomination or even another country find their way onto the press. These off-metal errors are so rare they command thousands at auction, sometimes more. Auction records tell the story. A 2014 P dime with a vivid double die obverse sold for over $3,000 in a major numismatic event, while another featuring a dramatic off-center strike fetched close to $4,000. For coins struck on wrong planchets, the numbers soar even higher, the kind of hidden value that makes collectors' hearts race and everyday people rethink the change in their jars. So the next time you pull a dime from your pocket, don't just spend it without a thought. Look closer. Check for doubled letters, unusual colors, or a weight that feels just a little off. That ordinary dime could be an extraordinary treasure waiting to be found. Tonight, go through your old coins, because history, mystery, and maybe even fortune are waiting in your hands. It's easy to dismiss the coins in our pocket as nothing more than loose change. But what if I told you that one of those dimes, an ordinary-looking 1975 US 1 dime, could actually be worth thousands of dollars? Every so often, a rare minting error, an unusual planchet, or a fascinating transitional anomaly slips through the cracks, transforming a humble coin into a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. The story of the 1975 dime is one of overlooked brilliance. In that year, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia and Denver produced millions of Roosevelt dimes, each bearing the familiar portrait of FDR and the torch and olive branches on the reverse. But while most were struck on standard copper-nickel-clad planchets, a tiny handful were mistakenly struck on silver planchets left over from earlier production years, a remarkable and valuable oversight. These silver 1975 dimes stand out to the trained eye for their distinctive shine, slightly different weight, and unique metallic ring. One example sold at auction for more than $7,000, simply because it defied the norm. Even rarer are the 1975 dimes with proof-like qualities. That year, the San Francisco Mint struck proof dimes for collectors, coins with mirror-like fields and frosted details, but some proof planchets may have been fed into circulation production by accident, creating dazzling specimens that turn up in pocket change decades later. Collectors cherish these accidental proofs, with some fetching thousands when well preserved. Perhaps the most captivating errors, though, are the double die obverse varieties. On select 1975 dimes, close scrutiny reveals faint doubling on Roosevelt's eye, the date, or even the motto, "In God We Trust." These double dies happen when the die itself was misaligned during the engraving process, stamping every coin it struck with an echo of itself. To a casual observer, it may look like a flaw, but to a collector, it's a mark of rarity. One such double die recently brought over $5,000 at auction, proving how a tiny error can lead to a big reward. The 1975 dime reminds us that even the most ordinary seeming coins have a story, a hidden chapter in our nation's history, and sometimes, a surprising fortune. So the next time you sort through your change, pause and take a closer look. Examine each dime under a bright light, tilt it to catch the details, and see what stories it holds. Because in the world of numismatics, the greatest treasures are often hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone like you to find them. Every day, we pass them through our fingers without a second thought, small, shiny, and seemingly insignificant. Yet sometimes, even the most ordinary-looking coin can hide an extraordinary secret. Take, for instance, the 2018 US 1 dime. At first glance, it's just another Roosevelt dime, but thanks to rare minting errors, unusual planchets, and transitional anomalies, some of these coins have fetched thousands of dollars at auction, and they may still be out there, hiding in plain sight. The 2018 Roosevelt dime was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where hundreds of millions of these coins were produced. Yet even in the most modern of facilities, perfection isn't always guaranteed. Collectors began noticing strange specimens in circulation. 2018 dime struck off-center, showing a crescent of blank planchet, or struck on a planchet intended for another denomination entirely, resulting in a dime with the wrong weight and a faint but dazzling golden hue. Such planchet errors are highly sought after, not just because they're rare, but because they offer a fascinating glimpse into how even precision machinery can falter in spectacular ways. Even more intriguing are the double die obverse varieties discovered by keen-eyed collectors. On certain 2018 dimes, close inspection under magnification reveals subtle doubling on the date, the words, Liberty, or Roosevelt's eye. These doubling errors occur when the die itself is engraved imperfectly, transferring its doubled design to every coin it strikes. To most, it's barely noticeable, but to a numismatist, it's a prize. One such double die 2018 dime sold at auction for nearly $3,000, a staggering return for what looked like spare change. And then there are the transitional anomalies, coins struck as the mint experimented with planchet alloys and adjusted production techniques. Rumors have long swirled in collector circles of 2018 dimes struck on experimental blanks, possibly left over from test runs. These enigmatic pieces add a layer of mystery and allure, prompting treasure hunters to scour rolls of dimes for a glimpse of something out of the ordinary. Each of these coins tells a story, not just of a mistake, but of history being quietly written in metal. For collectors, they're more than errors, they're artifacts, each with its own journey and intrigue. So the next time you open your change jar, don't just toss your dimes aside. Turn them over, tilt them under the light, and look closer. Because that 2018 dime in your hand might just be worth more than you ever imagined, and its story could become your own numismatic adventure. Every now and then, an unassuming coin slips through our fingers without us realizing the treasure it might hold. The 1996 US 1 dime is one of those coins, a piece of everyday change that, thanks to rare minting errors, unusual planchets, and transitional anomalies, can be worth thousands of dollars to the right collector. It's a perfect reminder that sometimes, what seems ordinary at first glance hides a story of history, rarity, and value waiting to be uncovered. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the 1996 Roosevelt dime was issued to mark the 50th anniversary of the series. Hundreds of millions were produced that year, and yet, among those countless coins, a handful emerged with remarkable errors that have since captured the fascination of collectors everywhere. As production ramped up to meet demand, certain dimes escaped quality control bearing dramatic misstrikes, coins struck off-center, revealing a crescent of blank metal, or even struck on the wrong planchets altogether, creating dimes with odd weights and unexpected hues. Such unusual planchet errors are highly sought after for their sheer rarity and visual intrigue. Some of the most coveted examples from 1996 are the double die obverse dimes. On these rare coins, collectors have noticed subtle doubling on the inscriptions, particularly in the word Liberty and the date itself. Under magnification, the telltale doubling is a fascinating sign of a die that slipped ever so slightly during the engraving process. This kind of error carries a premium, as it connects each coin back to a flaw at the very heart of the minting process, a frozen moment of imperfection immortalized in metal. A few intriguing proof strikes also emerged from the San Francisco Mint in 1996. Intended for collectors, these brilliant proof coins were meant to be flawless, yet some have surfaced with striking anomalies, cameo contrasts missing on one side, or mirror-like finishes dulled by improper polishing. For seasoned collectors, even these subtle deviations make a proof coin a true standout. Auction records tell the story of just how much collectors are willing to pay for these elusive errors. A 1996 P dime with a dramatic off-center strike sold for over $2,000, while a pristine double-die obverse example fetched nearly $4,000 at auction, astonishing prices for coins you might otherwise overlook. So next time you empty your pockets, don't dismiss that little silver dime. Take a closer look. Tilt it under the light, examine the details, and see if you can spot what others have missed. Because one of these rare 1996 P dimes might just be hiding in your collection, waiting to turn an ordinary moment into an extraordinary discovery. Sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in plain sight, right in your pocket. Take the 1999 P US 1 dime. At first glance, it's just another coin you'd use for parking or to grab a soda. But a select few of these seemingly ordinary dimes have shocked collectors by selling for thousands of dollars, thanks to rare minting errors, unusual planchets, and intriguing transitional anomalies. Tonight, we're peeling back the layers of history to uncover the fascinating story behind this unassuming dime and why it's become a sought-after prize in the world of numismatics. The 1999 dime was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The P mark stamp to its left of the torch tells us that. That year, over 1 billion Roosevelt dimes poured out of the presses, continuing a series first issued in 1946 to honor FDR. Yet within that flood of coins, a handful carried mysterious mistakes that slipped through unnoticed, destined to become legendary among collectors. Some 1999 P dimes have been discovered with a double die obverse, where the engravings of Liberty, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the date itself show ghostly doubling when viewed under magnification. For seasoned numismatists, these double designs are like whispers from the mint floor, hinting at human error and mechanical misalignment in the high-speed production process. Other fascinating anomalies from 1999 include dimes struck on experimental or foreign planchets. One famous example was struck on a copper-nickel-clad blank too thin, resulting in a lightweight, undersized dime that stood out the moment it was weighed. Even more dramatic are the broad strikes and off-center errors collectors have found, dimes missing their rims, designs creeping off the edge, or unevenly pressed, each creating a one-of-a-kind piece of minting history. Proofs from that year, struck at the San Francisco Mint, also sometimes display incomplete frosting on their devices or mirrored fields marred by die polishing, making each imperfect proof a unique story in silver. Auction records bring these oddities to life. In recent years, a beautifully preserved 1999 P dime with a bold double die sold for nearly $3,000, while another off-center error brought in over $1,500. These little coins, often dismissed as pocket change, continue to surprise collectors with their rarity and value. So next time you're counting your coins, take a moment to study that dime in your palm. Check the date, the lettering, even the weight. Because hiding in those grooves and edges could be a forgotten piece of history, and a fortune waiting to be found. Keep looking, because your change just might change your life. We handle them every day without a second thought, but sometimes, the most ordinary coins in our pockets hold secrets worth thousands. Take the 1995 D US 1 dime. Struck for everyday use, tossed into jars, passed over counters, yet a handful of these dimes have stunned collectors with their hidden rarity, thanks to rare minting errors, unusual planchets, and fascinating transitional anomalies. Tonight, we uncover the incredible story behind the 1995 D dime, and why you might just have a treasure hiding in your own change. In 1995, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes, continuing the series that began in 1946 to honor Franklin D. Roosevelt. The D mint mark to the left of the torch tells us this dime came from Denver. On the surface, nothing unusual, but buried in that massive production run were a few stunning mistakes. The most talked about is the double die obverse. Some 1995 D dimes show clear doubling on the date, the word Liberty, and even parts of the motto, "In God We Trust," producing a ghostly, layered effect that fascinates collectors. These doubling errors happen when the die itself is misaligned during production, and they're rare because quality control usually catches them before coins leave the mint. Then there are transitional anomalies, coins struck on leftover planchets from earlier runs or experimental metals. In 1995, a few Denver dimes were accidentally struck on thinner foreign planchets, resulting in a lighter weight and slightly off color. Other examples include broad strikes, where the collar fails during minting and leaves the coin wider and rimless, and dramatic off-center strikes, with the design noticeably shifted toward the edge. These errors transform what was meant to be mundane into something uniquely valuable. Collectors have unearthed incredible finds over the years, and the auction records prove it. One beautifully preserved 1995 D dime with a sharp double die obverse fetched nearly $3,000, while another off-metal strike sold for over $2,000. Even circulated examples of major errors regularly bring hundreds at auction. Every one of these rare coins tells a story of the rush of production, the imperfections of machines and humans, and the thrill of discovery decades later. So next time you're sorting through your change, don't rush. Take a closer look at the date, the lettering, the edges. Because that dime you almost spent could be a hidden chapter of history, and maybe even a small fortune. Check your coins, because every piece of pocket change has a secret waiting to be uncovered. It's easy to dismiss the coins jingling in your pocket as nothing more than spare change, but sometimes, those unassuming little dimes are hiding stories worth thousands. Take the 1981 D US 1 dime. Struck in the heart of Denver and intended for everyday commerce, these dimes quietly entered circulation. Yet hidden among them are rare specimens with minting errors, odd planchets, and mysterious transitional quirks that have turned a few into prized collectors' gems, selling for staggering sums at auction. Tonight, we peel back the curtain on this ordinary dime's extraordinary secrets. The 1981 D Roosevelt dime was part of the ongoing tribute to Franklin D. Roosevelt, first minted in 1946. By 1981, Denver was turning out millions of these dimes to keep up with national demand. You can spot the Denver Mint's D mint mark just to the left of the torch on the reverse. But in the rush of mass production, mistakes inevitably slipped through, and those mistakes became numismatic gold. Among the most fascinating are examples with double die obverse errors. Careful eyes have spotted faint but undeniable doubling on Liberty, the date, and even Roosevelt's profile itself, a ghostly effect created when the die shifts slightly during its preparation. On a proof quality strike, that doubling leaps out dramatically, and even on circulated coins it remains a collectible curiosity. These double dies are rare enough to excite seasoned collectors, and some have crossed the auction block at over $2,000. Even more intriguing are coins struck on the wrong planchets. In 1981, the mint was phasing out some planchets from earlier runs, and a handful of dimes appear to have been struck on experimental or foreign metal blanks, resulting in odd colors, reduced weight, or a softer strike. These transitional errors are incredibly scarce and can fetch thousands when authenticated. There are also off-center strikes, where the dime's design is shifted noticeably toward the edge, and broad strikes, which leave the rim distorted and wide. Both are striking visual reminders of how these factory floor flaws become collector treasures. Auction houses have seen some of these mistakes bring impressive sums, often from collectors drawn to their rarity and backstory. Each of these dimes carries a piece of mint history, a frozen moment of imperfection, and the thrill of the hunt for those who know where to look. So, whether you're a lifelong collector or just curious about the coins in your drawer, take a moment to check your 1981 D dimes. Look closer, turn them in the light, and discover what others might miss, because you never know when your spare change could be hiding a small fortune. In your pocket right now, there could be a tiny treasure worth thousands, and you'd never know it. The humble dime is easy to overlook, but some carry hidden stories of minting mistakes and rare anomalies that make collectors' hearts race. Take the 2016 D US 1 dime. Minted by the millions in Denver, it seems like just another modern Roosevelt dime, but a select few of these coins are hiding fascinating errors and rare characteristics that have made them coveted prizes at auction. Let's take a closer look at the surprising history behind this unassuming coin. The 2016 Denver Roosevelt dime continues a legacy that began in 1946, honoring the beloved president whose leadership during the Great Depression and World War II defined a generation. By 2016, the Denver Mint was striking dimes at an astonishing pace, with precision equipment churning out perfect examples, at least most of the time. But as every collector knows, perfection is rarely absolute. Sometimes dies are misaligned or overused. Sometimes a planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes the coin, is mismatched or flawed. And sometimes, those imperfections create something extraordinary. Collectors began noticing examples of 2016 D dimes with faint yet distinctive doubling on the obverse. Known as a double die obverse, this subtle error results from a die that shifted slightly while being engraved, producing a doubled effect on letters like Liberty or on the delicate contours of Roosevelt's profile. These double die errors are tricky to spot but add dramatic value when verified, some fetching upward of $1,000 in collector circles. Even rarer are transitional or wrong planchet errors, where a 2016 dime was mistakenly struck on a leftover foreign blank or a different denomination's planchet. These dimes often weigh slightly less, have unusual coloration, or exhibit a weak strike. A 2016 D struck on a nickel planchet, for instance, sold for over $2,000 at auction because of its rarity and the intrigue of its mistake. Other anomalies include broad strikes, where the rim is stretched and distorted, or off-center strikes that leave part of the design missing, visually stunning reminders of the human and mechanical imperfections of minting. Auction houses have seen these 2016 D errors cross their block with bidding wars driven by the stories they tell. These aren't just coins, they're artifacts of chance, history, and discovery. So next time you empty your pocket or sort through that jar of change, take a closer look at your dimes, especially those from 2016 with a little D mint mark. You might just uncover a hidden treasure waiting to be found.